Today we're going to talk about the questionnaire for AudioPort managers that Ursula has in the works.
Yeah. So we get. I think you understand that AudioPort is set up in a way where the stations control locally who gets accounts from their stations, and so we defer to local management for that because we don't really know people at your stations, and the shows in a way represent your station. So we feel it's important for local management to determine or to vet people. We kind of we rely on that vetting process to keep AudioPort on the straight and narrow, so to speak. And it's basically for the 20 years or so that AudioPort's been around, that's worked pretty well because people have been pretty conscientious and thoughtful about the process. And but we also get a lot of, these days we get a lot of independent producers wanting to distribute their work through AudioPort, especially with the rise of podcasts. More people are doing audio production. So we get an average of maybe 2 requests a week from independent producers who want to distribute to Pacifica Network, which is great. I mean, the diversity is fantastic, but it does raise the question of how to vet these people. And so far, just kind of historically, the way AudioPort developed, that vetting process happens here in our office. And we basically decide whether somebody is appropriate for AudioPort or not. We don't have very strict guidelines. I mean, obviously, we have certain rules that we expect local managers to check too, which is, there's no violence, no condoning of prejudice, FCC compliance, technical, that it's listenable, basic requirements. So what we found is that we have such an uptick in people that want to distribute through Pacifica independently that I ended up making a form for people to fill out. So that I basically don't have to have the same discussion over and over and over with people. And the form actually allows them to kind of self-audit themselves to see whether they are appropriate for AudioPort or not. So it occurred to me that this would be a tool that would be useful for the local station, the local AudioPort managers at Pacifica affiliates as well. So I'm probably going to send this out to all of the AudioPort managers and station managers. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. So that you can also use this as a tool to, so the idea is that if one of your programmers came to you and said, I'd like to start syndicating my program, that you could possibly say, well, oh, that's great. The first step is, why don't you fill out this form? And then let's talk about it. And I found that it actually works pretty well. I've done it a few times now, and I found that there's been a good response to it, that the people that I sent it to have felt kind of like this was a process that they could relate to and could fill out the form. And it certainly saved me a lot of time in terms of, in terms of having to check all these things. So I'm going to share this with you. I want to show it to you. And it's a fillable form.
Bye, Ruth.
Hello. Ruth actually made the fillable form.
Just want to say a quick hi to everybody there.
Hey.
See you later.
Later.
Going home?
Yeah.
Okay. Ruth is going home. So it starts out by, thank you for considering and syndicating work Pacifica's AudioPort. We appreciate your work and interest in our network. Below is a checklist of questions for you to review. Please fill these out as a first step to prepare your show for syndication. Our intent with this checklist is not to discourage you, but to confirm that AudioPort is the right platform for you to distribute work and to help you prepare as quickly as possible. Then there's a link to the page on our website that kind of gives you best practices. And we suggest that people look those over. This is something kind of what I've always done verbally when somebody approaches me for syndicating an AudioPort. And so I'm kind of just running through the conversations I usually have with people. So the first is, what is the mission of your show? And is the topic and presentation fitting for a global audience as opposed to a local audience? And then, will you be able to produce your show regularly and independently for distribution? You have approximately 3 extra evergreen shows available to use if you cannot produce a regular show. And then there's a discussion about timing. This is especially important these days because people are making podcasts now, which kind of don't adhere to a clock. And so really checking to make sure that people are aware that radio works on a clock is important. I almost think that this could be a little bit nuanced. Generally, what I say to people that have an hour-long show, I say, you should figure on your show being between 57 to 59 minutes. And that if it's a half-hour show, it should be 29 minutes. So I guess this is kind of preliminary. I guess with using this form, that conversation would probably happen afterwards. So how long is your show? They would probably answer someplace either between half an hour, and 2 hours. And then, is it consistent? Does it have good sound quality? And just checking the kind of audio file they're using as an MP3 and 128 or higher. And then there's a discussion about the nuances that separate a national show or a global show from a local show. So you remove mentions of local shows or mentions about the local station or promotional events that are happening in your community. References to time of day. One of my pet peeves is a lot of shows on AudioPort will say things like good morning, and it's not the end of the world, but I think it's a better sound if you don't identify at the time because you don't know when the show will go on the air. Local underwriters should be removed. If you have an underwriter who you keep on there, you should really be charging them different rates. But most local underwriters would not be appropriate for national syndication because, they're the garage down the street or whatever. And of course, local station IDs. And you'd be surprised how many people leave their local station IDs in AudioPort shows. It's one of the things that Stephanie and I are constantly hunting down and telling people to stop doing that. This is kind of a little bit of a trick question, but we kind of set it up that, do you agree that your show does not include advertising or local underwriting? If they don't say yes, that's a problem because especially with advertising, this actually is relevant now because people are making podcasts and they get in the habit of doing advertising. And does your show have underwriting or sponsor? It is good to have a conversation with your producer if they do have a sponsor. What I say to people these days is that it's not forbidden and that most stations kind of understand by now that people need money, but it should be handled tactfully and appropriately and definitely legally. And so there does need to be a discussion about that to check to make sure that the person understands what is the legal parameters of an underwriter. And quite frankly, if they have an underwriter and they are a national show, they should charge national rates. They shouldn't be charging the same rates that a local station would. Again, we're going back to does not include station. We double back on this because it is such a chronic problem that people leave those IDs in. And then we check on whether they understand the law, the forbidden words, payola, pagola, political endorsements, or do you need information on this? My sense is that when somebody says, yes, I understand it, I still have a conversation with them and make them run through it to make sure they really do understand. And then, this is in a way their commitment to comply, and that there is no local pitching for their station, because that very often comes up too. Especially people that, their local station is going through a fund drive and they don't separate their show from that. And then they post a show that includes the fund drive in it. And then the next question is really to find out who will be working on the show, like who is responsible for uploading the show, and checking with that person to make sure they understand that they can do it responsibly and regularly, and really understand how to do it. So usually what we say to that person is, the first time you're uploading your show, give us a call and we'll make sure that that we're on the phone with you so you really understand how to do it properly. Now, I can think of a few questions that we may want to add to this eventually. I think that we probably should ask them what day and what time they plan to upload their show and whether they're able to do that consistently. I think that's one thing. But this is basically, the issues that come up when we're working with a new producer in AudioPort. I don't actually know what happens with a lot of stations locally. A lot of stations will call us and say somebody at our station wants to start syndicating. And then we say, well, if you give them an account, we'll work with them. So that's another option too, is for the local AudioPort manager to, after giving somebody an account, to send them to us, and we'll certainly work with them. But I think that using this form will shorten that process for everybody. It'll help the station manager kind of make sure that the person syndicating is serious and understands what the process is. And it certainly will shorten the process if the person ends up being deferred to us, because the person will already have thought about some of these things. The last step then, and again, I think this should be put on the form, is there should be a link to the program so that either we or the station manager can listen to it and make sure that it actually sounds right. So I think that's another thing that we could put on here. Although on a local level, you're probably more likely just to be able to find the show anyway, because you or your management is essentially programming the show, so you know where it is and how to listen to it. So I wanted to share this with you because I do think I'm going to end up sending this to everybody and suggest that they start to use it. A lot of stations forget that they actually have to develop syndicated shows with their local producers, and act as a reminder as well. And I don't know, it's possible, Stephanie, also that we can make this a downloadable form on our website for people to use. Is that right?
I would think so. If I suppose if we made it a PDF. This is a PDF,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
This is a PDF. Is it? Is a fillable form a PDF? I'm not sure.
Oh, wait, a fillable form.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It might be beyond my knowledge at the moment.
Yeah,
Good question. I know.
I think a fillable form is a Word document, but we should be able to download a Word document from somewhere, or if you send it to us, then I have it on my own Google, my Google.
yeah, it's not a Word document. It's definitely it comes from Adobe, so it's either a PDF or a.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
sure
but
what else.
it so yeah. So let me clarify then. So
Okay.
it's more than just a plain PDF.
Yeah.
But we should be able to
Yes.
download it and include it in our own Google Drafts and documents, and send to potential contributors for them to fill out. And I think this is a really good guideline, because standards.
Yeah, maybe we can work on that and figure out how to make that work to download in a way that's.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could make it downloadable on the website, just because it's another place where people can get it.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I'll try and send it to everybody, but it's very, very hard to keep up with who all is doing this in AudioPort. I guess it would be a project for you and me, Stephanie, actually, to go through and find out who's managing AudioPort, all the different stations. But that's a chunk of work. But at the very least, I can send it out on a listserv to the station managers.
Yeah.
So you think it looks helpful to you, Davine?
Yes, and I would say it's important to stress quality, because we actually discontinued a couple of shows recently because of the poor quality of the audio. And I know one of those is still uploading to Pacifica since then.
Okay.
So someone mentioned it a couple of months ago, that if after 2 years of doing your own audio at home and you haven't improved your audio sound and even checked to see if it sounds as good as it could, then you don't really care.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Okay, Marie, do you have any feedback?
No, I haven't. I think what you've outlined looks really good.
Okay, great.
I do have a question. So we have a couple of shows that are really very well produced, but they're not done weekly, but I've got a 24 show block. Is that okay to upload those, to give them this guideline and upload those so that other stations could pick them up, but and just play that 24 show series?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can do that.
Okay.
Let me see. Let's take a look at AudioPort and to talk about what would be the best place for that. Let me see. Okay, so we have daily programs, weekly programs, bi-weekly, monthly.
Are you wanting to share your screen with that, or are you just doing that?
Do you see it?
No.
You don't see it? Why
I think
not?
you have to
Okay.
undo
All
it
right,
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, let me try it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, now you see it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, would they these are shows, right? They're not actualities.
Shows.
Right. So I think that you could put them under They're not documentaries, right?
No.
Okay. I think you could put them under specials.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this will be very helpful. And I totally concur about getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a good thing that we're at the point where we feel we need a form. I mean, you know, it means that there's enough volume that that's become necessary. So it's really a good sign. And, you know, it's good not to stay informal. So under specials, what I would recommend though, Devine, just because of the nature of the way people think, I would space them out a week at a time. Wait, does that work for you? So one per week?
I'll ask him and tell him that's the only way he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, now you can, the thing is, he can upload them all at once. He just has to date them a week apart.
Okay.
And I think, I don't know, I'm very torn on that. The thing is that if you, like how many installments does it include?
24.
24. I mean, what happens is that if he installs them all at once, essentially everybody else is going to kind of get wiped out because of that.
Yeah. So is under the series, is there a way to maybe designate it under a series? Is there a series section in AudioPort?
No, in AudioPort, series means something else.
Okay.
Series is a name for a show that is being syndicated regularly. So you wouldn't really call this a series.
Okay,
because
gotcha.
Because you don't want people putting this on their schedule and then all of a sudden going, what happened when it ends?
Right.
So
well, I'll work with him and see if we can figure out how to make this work.
right. Well, what I'm saying is if he puts all 24 up at once, other people are going to be kind of ticked off because
okay, gotcha.
They're going to be wiped out. But the other disadvantage of that is that then you're kind of stuck in time and you get put into the past pretty quickly.
Yes.
And
Probably within hours.
Right, within hours. So if you put one up a week, then you kind of have an opportunity during that time to advertise it and post on the listserv, you know, this week special program. And it kind of gives you the opportunity once a week to put yourself out in front of people. And you can upload them all at the same time. You just date them a week apart. You understand?
Yes.
So it's not like you have to come back every week. You just have to give them dates that spaces it out, you know, a week apart. And that way you're going to show up in a way that's not going to tick other people off. And it kind of keeps you up, you know, in front of people for a while.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And it's also just a little bit more compatible about the way people, you know, program radio. They're more likely to say, I have this extra hour this week. What's available? Instead of saying, oh yeah, a few weeks back, there was this whole bunch of shows. Let me go back to that. It's just the way people think, you know, people think what's current, right? So that's what I would do, but I would put it under specials.
Okay.
And no, it would not be a series because a series is something that's ongoing.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
So
and
then,
you know, as always, if you want any help with that, let us know. We're always here to kind of help clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to present.
I have a AudioPort adjacent question.
Okay.
In regards to announcing stuff.
Okay.
announcing shows. I had someone ask me the other day, they wanted to do kind of a campaign where they announced that their program was new, like once a week for a month. And I'd never heard of anyone doing that before. So I was just curious what you thought about that.
I don't know. I don't really care. As long as they keep it to once a week. If they do it every day, it's just going to tick people off
Yeah.
because it's going to fill their mailboxes full. But I don't know. I don't have any.
Okay.
It is a new idea. Nobody's ever thought of that before. But I'm not going to stop somebody from working themselves.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
As long as the show is halfway decent. If it's a really bad show,
It's well, I won't say what it is since we're being recorded.
if you think it's a really bad show, then you may discourage them from.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think it's very specific taste.
Okay, fine. No, whatever. No, I'm not going to stop somebody from doing that. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the share, and maybe we should stop the recording because that's really the end of the presentation.
Sure. Okay. We'll do that here. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah.